Before we get started, I just wanted to say that the audio in this podcast is not our greatest, and I apologize for that. We didn't want to re-record it because we had such a good time with our guests, and we were just cracking up for a couple hours, so we're just going to play it as it is. Also, our guest is a really great musician, and he's given us permission to play one of his songs in the outro, so stick around and listen to it. We really dig it, and we think you guys will too. Without further ado, let's get started.
Welcome to Get to the Good Part. I am Ryan.
And this is Chris.
And with us today is Willie Simpson. You might all know him from the podcast, the X-Men TAS Podcast. It's where they go over an episode of the X-Men, the animated series show from back in the 90s, one episode at a time. We're kindred spirits. Willie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, guys. Chris, Ryan, thank you. I can't believe I'm here. Yeah! Ready Player One. Let's go.
So before we get started, Willie, kind of just give us a little bit of background with you with this book.
Oh, well, I've read this book like, I don't really know how many times. It's probably pushing 10. Like many, I first listened to it, the Will Wheaton version. And
listen to it, huh?
And yeah, that's right.
That's how you do it.
I have read it many times though too, but like his voice is kind of unfortunately tattooed on my brain when I read it. But no, I thought he did a good job. But yeah, so I'm well versed in this book, and I'm very excited to be here. You know, I just reached out to you guys randomly because I really enjoyed your podcast, and I just wanted to be on it to talk about this book. So I'm very excited.
Well, we're excited to have you.
Chapter. Yeah.
We're excited to have you here. When when I was on your podcast, we talked a little bit about your background with the book, and you said you listened to it first. You weren't really a big fan of Will Wheaton's read-through. Is that right?
Love-hate relationship, because I think he actually does a great job in certain sections. He very dramatically reads things and makes it very exciting. But then there's other parts I wasn't so thrilled with. Like, I guess when he does the Artemis parts, I'm like less, and not just Artemis, actually also Dido and Shoto. I found that kind of like unnervingly bad for some reason. But outside of that, I think he did a very good job. But like I said, I found myself cringing a little bit whenever we got into Artemis Parzival territory.
Yeah, Chris, your initiation with the book was on audiobook, right? You have yet to read a paper copy of this book.
That's true. My my cherry was popped with Will Wheaton on this book.
As so many ladies out there.
And you know what? I'm kind of with you, because first off, a friend of mine was like, you've got to listen to this book. I had gotten the book in a loot crate. And, you know, I looked at the book and I was like, oh, damn it. They just popped in a piece of literature fluff. Crap. Toss that book to the side. So I have the actual book on my shelf, but I just never read it. Because I thought, you know, it was in a loot crate. I thought, I'm more interested in the games and the toys and bullshit. And then some friends of mine were like, you've got to read this book. So I was like, all right, well, I've got an hour to kill every day driving to and from work. So I'll just, see if they've got the audio version. And then I saw Will Wheaton was reading it. I was like, oh, God. Every show I've seen him on, he just has this sort of whine, sort of a Will Wheaton whine.
Right.
But
the Wheaton whine.
The Wheaton whine.
The Wheaton
whine. But he read the book great, and whatever problems I had, I got over by the first chapter.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it didn't bother me at all. Any of the other characters that he kind of played into or that he changed his voice for. And I get it. It's hard to, emulate these other sort of different characters, particularly like female voices. It's just Will Wheaton doing a female voice would just kind of awkward. But when he did it, I just didn't even notice it.
Or an Asian voice.
Or an Asian voice.
Yeah, to me that bothered me a little more for some reason. I don't know why.
Felt whitewashed.
Yeah.
It did. It felt very whitewashed. All right, before we get into that territory,
No, I want to say one last thing about Will Wheaton, guys. Just like, despite the little negative nitpicks I have, I have like a wonderful like sense memory connection with his narration because we first got the book. Me and my girlfriend Sonia, who's also the co-host on the X-Men TAS podcast. We were in Australia on work permit visas. And we had like these long bus rides too. And I was just listening to the book on these long bus rides to the beach and just hanging out these like paradise beaches in Sydney. And I'll just always have that like beautiful, like I said, sense memory of Ready Player One and Paradise.
So the voice of Will Wheaton to you is like Paradise.
Yes, it's very evocative of a time in my life that was quite like wonderful. So
Will, you remind me of sand and sun.
It's like your first girlfriend's perfume, you fucking remember it, That shit was on your sheets or your sweater or the sweatshirt that she borrowed forever.
Will Wheaton's like a perfume on your sheets.
I
like this.
Went too far. I went too far is what happened there. I admitted too much, and now I've got the egg on my face.
Why you gotta make this uncomfortable?
I don't know. I always do.
I'm just glad it's not me.
Welcome to get to the good part where we are constantly uncomfortable. All the time. All the time. I am Ryan. I'm the one who makes it uncomfortable. And that's Chris. He's not wearing a V-neck, but it kind of looks like he is.
And I'm Willie. I'm just nervous to be here.
Yeah, and here's Willie. He's just coming in trying to figure out the landscape of this bullshit. I empathize. That's terrible.
So we've got this killer chapter.
Yeah.
This killer chapter.
Killer chapter.
When you say killer, you really mean killer. It's a chapter that ends with a bang. Quite literally.
People
I
die.
Think this is my fear.
No laughing. Stop laughing.
It just comes down. It's like my favorite chapter. I think this was like that one chapter that the book got really interesting for me.
Well, you and I talked about it. I mean, just the other day. This is my favorite chapter because I feel like as far as the book goes, the dialogue is richest in this chapter versus every other chapter in the book.
And it's darker. Like I think this is by far the darkest chapter.
Yeah.
This is the one that actually instilled a real fear for the characters in the book.
Go ahead, Willie.
My hot take is this is not my favorite chapter of the book.
Why not?
I don't know. Because I'm annoyed at so much of Wade's decisions in this chapter that it kind of made me just like dislike Wade's character a bit in this chapter, but we'll discuss that as we go along. But that's just my general feeling about chapter 14 as I've reread it several times before prepping for this a momentous occasion here.
Right.
By the end of go ahead.
No, you go.
So I mean, no, so some things rub me the wrong way about this chapter, but I'll have a lot to say as we delve deep into the details here.
The chapter begins with Wade materializing at IOI's Oasis headquarters, right? The observation deck with a stunning view over a dozen Oasis worlds. Now, the first time that I read the book, and I read it, motherfuckers, you did not. So I still had the theater of the imagination pulsing within my brain. And I visualized what it would be like to be standing on this observation deck. It's the fucking Enterprise. Am I wrong?
That is not the ship that came to mind.
Yeah, me neither. I was thinking more like a Star Destroyer.
Okay.
Yeah, something not quite as shapely, or just imagine something very industrial, very executive. Maybe not Star Wars Enterprise, not like Battleship like that, but definitely very executive battleship bridge. But
so you're just imagining a giant water cooler in
fucking could be. Yeah, actually, with just more angles, more cracks, more crevices, possibly an exhaust port or two. But yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just got the vibe of corporate evil sheen in space, whatever that is. Maybe less Star Wars, maybe a little more Spaceballs. Dark helmet ship or something.
Right.
I was just thinking like a white version of Red Dwarf, if you've ever seen that ship. It's just fucking ugly and long and deep crevices with a giant engine on the back of it. And
Well, I'm glad the conversation went down this route. What I really meant was just the outward view. Not the Enterprise itself. Just the outward view. Just looking down on these different systems and things like that. Or if you want to tie it back to the book, not that Star Trek is not back to the book, but I imagine Carl Sagan's Cosmos, the ship of the imagination, where he's just cruising through the universe in that tall thing. And it's the ship of the imagination, but he's looking at, he pulls back, he sees the solar system, then he sees just, the amalgam of galaxies out in front of him. And to me, that's the most exciting thing about this book is here you are, you're a kid in the stacks, you're sitting in basically a conversion van at the bottom of trash, and you're treated to the greatest view in the entire universe.
Yeah,
but
I love that.
This is my first disagreement with you, and I'm being serious. Like, I feel like he's sitting in that van, right, in the middle of nowhere, where he's always mindful of the weather. It's either too hot or too cold. I guess it's too cold most of the times because he has that space heater, and so the weather sucks. He's got like crappy food and probably really like gross water because of this like horrible polluted future he lives in. And so I just feel like strapping on a visor and seeing some simulated environment, like I feel like you would constantly, you would like probably like lift that visor up to scratch your eye or something, and just it would. It's like I wonder in Wade's van. This is the question I had: how immersed is he in the Oasis compared to? Well, I can't spoil it. But like in this, I guess in this chapter they mention that the Sixer people have immersive rigs where the technology is really amazing how they experience the Oasis. So I wondered like that contrast, if you're just some like schmo kid like Parzival, in like a cold, smelly van in a junkyard, like how immersed you really are and how impressive it all must seem.
I've had some video games that were incredibly distracting. I'll be honest with you, like when I've played video games like Battlefield, I think it was 2142, which was it had the sort of the mech type of robots and things like that. It was always in a wet, rainy, snowy, sort of a Russian-like atmosphere. When I play games that are like that, it doesn't matter what the environment is around me, it makes me feel cold. And when I'm in games like some of the original Battlefield games that are sunny, or you're in the forest, or it's on a desert, I'm very comfortable and I really enjoy those maps because of the environment. I don't feel hot, but I definitely feel it kind of gets to me differently, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Like fucking the movie Frozen. I hated Frozen. Take
I hate
the
that
fact
movie too.
The songs just killed me. They were just so horribly candy addictive that I just those ugh. But the entire movie made me cold. Like I walked out of there absolutely frigid.
I feel like we've had this conversation before because I think my point of reference was Skyrim. When you get up into the mountains and shit, when you get near the College of Winterhold, you just feel cold all the time. It's like your AC works 10 times better than it did.
Are you guys playing on like 70-inch televisions or something? Is it, I've played Skyrim too. I don't know. Maybe I don't have this power that you guys have.
No,
you got to get closer to the screen.
It's not a power. It's just that I don't know what it is. I think it's just like a version, like a visual set off for me. But the thing is, let's depart from the reality that we know and go into Wade's reality. Okay. The thing is, Wade has spent all of his formative years in the Oasis, even before his formative years. I mean, since he was a toddler, he's been in the Oasis, right? So his perception of reality is slightly different from our own, right? I mean, if you can imagine it, Chris, what's that called? Like your mind connecting with a virtual reality. There's a word for it.
I bet.
I can't remember the
Is
fucking
it
name.
like disassociation or something?
It's something like that. It was
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a post on Reddit like today that was talking about it. It's like an immersion thing.
Yeah. You know, that's what they promised with the Avatar movie. That before the movie came out, I remember reading these articles saying that test audiences, it created this like uneasy dissociative effect because the movie was so immersive that they were like, you know, walking in the world of Avatar. And I was like, holy fuck, this movie's gonna be amazing. And then when I remember seeing it in 3D, I was like, oh, it's just a 3D movie. It's not like I'm not in the world.
I don't know about you guys. I fucking loved that movie. I went 4 times.
Well,
really?
And that's a long ass movie. That's like a 4-hour movie. So I spent 16 hours watching Avatar. It was the flying was more real than anything that I had seen, like particularly the flying scenes with whatever the dragon bird things are, and the battle scene where the missiles came out and they streaked past your head with the smoke trails coming out. I was blown away by how much they incorporated 3D, not as a gimmick, but as a character in the movie.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever heard of an Omnimax theater? Not IMAX, Omnimax.
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
So what it is it's a dome theater. It's a complete dome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in the dome, you sit in these stadium seats that are almost at a 90-degree angle. I mean, they're very steep. And when you sit in there, every part of your field of vision, your peripheral, everything is covered by the screen.
I've seen that, yes.
So
Right.
when you enter it, it feels like you're riding a ride. I remember the first one that I saw was the Blue Planet. And the first scene they did was they went from the space station and they had a camera that went all the way down to the Marianas Trench, like all the way to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. And the whole time I'm gripping the sides of my seats, like just like, like I felt like, and every time you go down a hill, they had one called the history of roller coasters, where you just like basically rode roller coasters throughout history. I mean, you feel that feeling in your stomach when you're going down a hill.
Yeah.
And it's that connection with that disassociation from reality. You're not moving. The seats did not move. But because your mind was perceiving it, it could not tell the difference between what it was seeing and what it was feeling.
Okay.
And it's a very fascinating thing. And I think that's what they're talking about here.
You know what's coloring my negative reaction here? It's I have a Google Pixel phone. So I was conned into buying the Google VR headset that they sell for $80.
That's a great con.
I was like, oh, that's a good deal. And I got it, and I expected to be like fully immersed. And Ryan, unlike the theater experience you're talking about, which I had as a kid too, at like the Liberty Science Center in New Jersey, which is like this big dome movie theater too they have. Where I remember that very distinctly, like you felt like you're like falling down Mount Everest or something when the camera goes swooping. This Google VR thing is kind of wimpy in a way.
Sure.
So you've like triggered memories in me of like, yeah, that thing that I experienced as a kid was like, that's like what like real VR probably would feel like. So I'm guessing that like, you know, in this book, the Oasis is probably more like what you described. Like the screen projected in your mind's eye is probably massive. It's probably so massive that you do feel like total immersion.
You're not getting the goggles. You're just getting full field of vision.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the book goes into describing that, because it's not, you're not looking at you're not looking at a surface.
It's painted under your eye.
Lasers are painted into your retina, so it's
awesome.
actually covering a full range across the back of your eye. So it looks as if you would get a full range, where really it's just painting to the furthest recesses of your eyeball, which is kind of brilliant, because then you don't really have to have a huge spread. You've just got to have that sort of pixel rendition on the back of your eyeball. I love that idea. A Soren at Epcot Center is exactly like what you're talking about, Ryan. The difference being is that while it is also a curved screen, rather than looking up, when you get in the seats lift like this.
Right.
And then you're dangling with rows above each other and below each other. So every person is right up in this screen that's curved. And then you've got like you're flying. And I really did have that feeling like I was flying, like my feet was dangling over ocean waves. And it was just the coolest thing.
Yeah, I think I've been to that as well. Yeah, that was awesome.
But IMAX does that without moving the seats. It's
Right.
just it's a complete 360 view as far as you're concerned.
Yeah.
And it takes you, like, there's one where they put you at the front of a like a subway train, and you're just going through the tunnels, and then there's one where you run up and you're at the middle of like an escalator, like you have to go down the middle of it, and you're just like, I remember being a kid and just being like, oh god, like, you know, I didn't get motion sick, but like at the same time, like every part of my body responded in the way that it would if it were put in that situation.
Yep.
The coolest thing, though, is the very first thing that they do in the IMAX of all of those different little test shots that they show you to, like, you know, calibrate your body to this because it's going to get way more intense. The very first shot that they did when I was a kid was they did that shot in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where you go through that wormhole, that time warp. And you're just like, and you come out into cold open space, and you're just like, oh, there's nothing under me, and it just fucks with your head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I'll tie this back into this chapter. You know,
Fucks
what I mean?
with your head.
It fucks with my head. But here's Wade for the first time on the deck of this asshole starship, looking out on 12 Oasis worlds. You know, I mean, it's kind of the closest thing to that. You know, I mean, this is one of those times when you get a full scope of what the Oasis looks like pulled back.
Yeah, the multiple planets that are out there.
Right.
What was it? Seeing 12 planets kind of out in the system there. And it's
wait,
neat because they can all be that close because it's not a real world. It doesn't have to be spread out. So you can have 12 worlds within a given view shot.
Well, earlier in the book, he says they're set up like the universe is almost like Rubik's cubes.
Right.
Right. It's a cubed universe.
Right. And, you know, one of the things that I think is underplayed in this chapter is that this is the first time Wade's seeing it from a pulled back perspective.
Oh.
This is the first time that he's standing out there and looking at the worlds of the Oasis without it being through like a video camera or something. He's not watching the screen cap. He's watching it for the first time.
Doesn't he mention in one of his like school classes that he goes on a trip of the solar system and sees Jupiter? And I mean, I know it's not the same as viewing the Oasis, but it is like a, you know, he's had experience looking at being lost in the stars in outer space.
Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's kind of the equivalent of the cart they roll in when you're a 90s kid, you know, where there's the fucking TV on top of the cart. And there's
look, the teacher's bringing in the AV cart today.
Right, it's like, yes, someone's hungover. Yeah. Let's watch a video. No, I don't know if it's like that, you know, but this is his first time. Like, I would imagine in the school they're showing him like the actual solar system. This is his first pulled back view of the Oasis.
Okay.
You know, I'm reading a little bit ahead, and I realize now why I thought that this thing was kind of like a floating water cooler.
That's okay. We need to push forward anyway.
Yeah. And it's because third paragraph in, he says that he sees a large C-shaped reception desk. Like, this isn't a ship that has a bridge per se. It has a reception desk. Like, I can't imagine a starship having a reception desk. Like I could imagine, like, you go to, you know, I guess you dock and then you take the elevator and you go to the 5th floor. That's where the reception desk is, and that's where marketing is. You know what I'm talking about? Because to me, it just felt like a flying office building.
Yeah.
Because it has a fucking reception desk.
Well,
you know, I was like, you see the Enterprise. Was there a reception desk on the Enterprise? Maybe after you.
Well, clear up my confusion here. Don't they at some point say that the whole thing he's on is modeled after the corporate IOI headquarters? But I don't know, like, what aspect.
That's the building on the planet.
Oh, okay. So, all right, yeah.
But he's not wrong. It's sort of modeled after that.
Yeah.
What the ship is?
The ship is, yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Well, I mean, it said that the IOI corporate logo, giant overlapping chrome letters, 20 feet tall, floated above the reception desk.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
But I could see like a giant IOI kind of connected and floating through space or something. That would be cheesy, weird, but interesting. Like, it would make me giggle.
It totally fits their fucking MO.
Just like a giant star battle where, like, you know, they're taking heavy damage. One of the eyes flies off damaged and sparking. It's just IO.
But before we get into that, we narrowed down the difference between a chat link and a chat room, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between H's basement and what he's seeing right here.
This is more corporate.
This is more corporate, but I'll harken back to one of our first conversations about H's basement when they say that you go up to the door leads nowhere. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you've got like this parameter, right? Well, I feel like a chat room is literally just one room, whereas a chat link can extend beyond one field of vision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it feels like a chat room is more static. Does that make any sense at all?
Oh, yeah. It feels like this is like FaceTiming, where he's maybe like imagine if your friend's carrying the phone and you're doing your meeting on your phone and then they carry you from room to room. The difference is a standalone environment versus actually going to an environment in the Oasis remotely.
Well, see, the way that I saw it is like I saw the FaceTime thing too, where if we're FaceTiming, that's a chat room where I can see what's like right now. I can see what's behind you. You can see what's behind me.
Mm-hmm.
But a chat link would be more like, well, if I pick up this device that I'm seeing it through, I can go 360 throughout the room. And guess what? You can travel to any point in that.
Yeah. Like you could go and open the door and interact with items. It kind of reminds me of like when you die as a Jedi and you're a ghost walking around in the swamp with Luke going, sorry, I'm dead. So I hope I can help from here.
This is a Force Ghost chat room.
Dad, you were like white and bald when I took off the helmet. You look really good now.
Well, speaking of that, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it segues perfectly into my next point. Wade materializes on the bridge of this thing, but he doesn't entirely materialize, does he? He shows up as sort of an apparition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he shows up. He's coming there saying, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. He's a hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he can interact. He's interacting hologram.
He can open doors and sit down or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why? That's what I don't understand about this part of the chapter is why. It's not like you don't have the fidelity to throw him in there like he's a real person.
Yeah.
Is there a point to the chat link showing people who are connecting looking like ghosts? Is there
I think there's a UI argument to be had here, which is that if you're in a room with people, did they really travel across the Oasis, or do they live in the same area? Are they operating in the ship, or is this an individual that's in a chat link?
I think I know the answer.
The person who's a chat link can just go back to wherever they came from, and you need a way to distinguish between quote unquote real people operating in the Oasis versus individuals that are just visiting through chat link.
Right.
Really go.
Yeah, Chris, like everything you just said, plus it's dangerous to invite people like for real into your place because Parzival, we know he's a low level wimpazoid, to quote Artemis. But like theoretically, he could be a super powerful avatar that could go in there and like murder everyone in the IOI corporate headquarters and set a bomb off and blow it up.
That's true.
Yeah.
As the person who controls the chat link, you can kick them out.
Yeah.
You can sever that connection. They have limited restrictions, so you've got way more control, but it does lend all of the interaction capabilities that an individual would have. Well, maybe not all, but the ability to walk and open doors and shit like that. So the way I see it is it's just a nice sort of corporate chat system. It has that corporate feeling. Even he mentions that it's expensive. That having your own chat link is a cost above and beyond, and that only big businesses and organizations would have that. Because when you think about what it takes for an individual to travel potentially that distance and how expensive that might be, to have a chat link is basically to like say, well, here we'll place a toll-free call and I'll accept the charges.
Right.
I care about you that much. I'll accept the charges, and you're going to be given the red carpet treatment.
But does he actually travel though? Because it seems like he's in the same place.
That's what I mean is he doesn't have to.
Right.
That's the advantage is just, you accept it and boom, you're there.
It's like a simulation of like almost being there.
It's a simulation of a simulation.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I was trying to say.
Inception, man.
It's very meta.
Like a nightmare within the nightmare.
Can I just say, because it's right around this part of the book too, strike one to Wade when he discovers that he can't record this chat link session. I think that would be like a huge tipping off point that something like extremely negative is about to happen, and that he should maybe quickly rethink like why he's even agreeing to do this if he can't record on his end.
If he can't be killed, and they can't do anything to him per se, his avatar is totally safe. Even if he can't record, he's already been in instances where he couldn't record. For example, when he went into the Tomb of Horrors, he couldn't record there. So there are places where there are controls put in place, be it by IOI with the chat link or by Anorak with the Tomb of Horrors, where he wasn't able to record. That just seems to be a thing. Like there are permission areas where you can do shit and can't do shit.
I feel like
I personally was thinking I would have rigged a microphone to my headset.
Yeah.
I feel like the difference here is like if I could troll somebody through text, it's not as gratifying. If I can troll somebody through Twitter, even though it's kind of a similar interface, it's more gratifying because people are going to see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he shows up, and he comes there to troll. He's there to lay the smackdown on IOI, and he can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
So it's like
He's there for his own
Yeah,
gratification.
you're right. That's my point. Like what? It's like he can't record it, so it's like, what is he even bothering at this point? His plan is so dumb. I'm sorry.
It doesn't make sense.
I think it makes. Wouldn't you have any sheer curiosity as to what you're up against? No
Sure.
one will
No.
have seen what he was going to see.
Really,
what they
none?
brought him through.
I totally disagree.
He said that there were tons of people that couldn't even get close to their home
Hold on.
planet.
Fine.
Chris, Willie, go ahead.
All right. I'll say two things to your point, Chris. One, he just won the Copper Key. He's the most famous person in the world, and he cleared the first gate. Like of all the things to do, why like waste half a day or whatever it is, like visiting like the IOI headquarters to hear some pitch that you're going to reject, and you're only there to like insult them or something, or to be like a jackass in the name of Gunterism. It's like weird that he cares that much about
That's a good point.
the plight of
That's a good
Gunter
point.
is that he like needs to make a dumb like political statement. I mean, but I get he's like 17 or something, so he's a little immature. But still, it's like a waste of his time. Like he's just done the most miraculous thing in the world. He could probably talk to any celebrity on Earth if he wanted to. He could, like get an audience with any cool person he ever wanted to do. He finally has money to explore the Oasis. It just seems like such a waste of his time to mess around. To mess around with these IOI people of all the emails he got. And then the second thing, Chris, you brought up too, which I find like baffling. I don't even know if this is
I'm good at that.
Yeah. I don't even
Chris
I baffle well.
baffles me constantly.
yeah. I don't know if this is connected to what I was just saying. In fact, it probably isn't. It just stuck out to me. It's like, why? What would the advantage be? Like, let's say you're one of these massive Gunter clans and you hate IOI. Like, what's the advantage of destroying their like dumb virtual like corporate headquarters in the Oasis? Like, does that get anyone anything?
Well, I don't think that he can.
No, but they
He
talk about like the defense grid and stuff that people
Sure.
have tried to attack the corporate IOI headquarters. But I'm like wondering to what end would anyone like care to even do that? Like what's
Stuff in the Oasis has real cost.
Yeah.
It has real storage of information. It operates like any data center you can imagine. Information is self-contained, as is the further demonstrated many more pages in. So it is possible that when you do damage to a ship, you've lost that ship. Money gone,
Yeah,
resource gone.
They've got billions of dollars. I mean, to them, I feel like any cost in the Oasis is totally negligible. There's no way that even if you're buying the fanciest, like, capital starships and worlds to host your like business zones, that they couldn't just easily, like how much could that really cost in surreal estate dollars?
It evidently costs a lot, but I mean, I don't want to get further down because they're actually further in the book that question is, I think, better addressed.
Okay.
I don't want to,
All right. Fair enough.
go down there. But to quickly address what you said, because I think those are all really good points, and I got to think that if I was a Gunter,
Right.
one, know thy enemy. You
Okay.
And IOI. I mean, as we go through this chapter, he gets closer than anyone else, he says, that in his research has gotten. Like he said that there were, camera views far off of the planet, the main IOI planet, but that nothing as close as what he ends up seeing as far as the tanks, the aircraft, the brigades of people, the size of the business itself. That is staggering, I believe is how he puts it.
Right.
So know your enemy. Two, you know what? He needs to know what his competition is going to be offered. How tempting is this? Who could potentially sell out? If he doesn't humor potentially what the offer is, he's not going to know how tempting the reward is, even if he doesn't care. And we all know he's not gonna bite. But I think third, and most importantly, is that he is one to banter. He is one to challenge intellect. And even when we're talking about with his closest friends, it's constantly a competition of knowledge and a competition of. There's a lot of braggery or chest puffing as far as what they know. So to be able to have said that he went down to the planet, stood in front of Nolan Sorrento, #1 bad guy, that's
Right.
that's like getting an invitation to have dinner with Darth Vader without the fear of being thrown into carbonite.
Yeah.
You can say you did it, and then you told him to fuck off, and there was nothing he could do about it. And at the very least, since he has this deep-seated hate, I could imagine it being kind of this, I've been itching to say this shit for like 12 years.
Chris, great points. Like you convinced me on almost everything I had a problem with. But at the same time, the only thing I'll say to that is like, if you offered me the opportunity to have a chat link session with Hitler, and it's like I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do that?
It's like to tell him like, "Fuck you, Hitler, you motherfucker." Like I wouldn't care.
Hold on. And this is going to be my final point before we move on. This is the culmination of a shower thought.
All right.
It's that moment when you're in the fucking shower and you're thinking about the thing you should have said or the thing that you would say when you're going against somebody that you disagree with. It's a culmination of a shower thought. He's thinking, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tell this motherfucker what's what. He's going in there. He's feeling like I cleared the first gate before anybody else did. I am the cock of the walk, baby. I'm king shit of fuck mountain. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell him what's what. And it's that bravado that we talk about with Wade. It comes up several times in the book. He has this sense of bravado. It stops at a certain point. That certain point oftentimes happens to be with Artemis, but he has that sense of bravado. And I think what he's doing now is he's exercising that bravado. He has permission from himself to go into IOI and basically say, I'm going to walk in there with my default skin and a fuck off attitude. And I'm going to tell you what's what. It's the first time, like, seriously,
it's like
bottom of the stacks, fucking conversion van. He's the bottom of the pecking order right now. But he has an opportunity to walk into, think about it. It's like saying, like you're living in a box, but you can walk up to the president of Comcast wants you to come in and tell him how to run his business. You're going to walk in there, you're going to be like, you know what, man? I don't even own a TV. Fuck off. Like he's got that sense of bravado. Like, I don't need you.
Like he has leverage. They've come to him. So he's wielding that leverage, even though he's nervous the entire time. He's still playing off arrogant and cocky on the outside.
He's top of the stack. Top of the stacks. Top of the stacks.
It's just still still feels like a waste of time to me.
I get it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like you'd think everybody else, even his other friends said, we didn't even open it.
Yeah, that seems like way more reasonable. They seem like to have their heads way more screwed on their head straight than Parzival.
I think he's thinking from an emotional place, though.
Yeah.
I agree.
He's very emotional,
He's coming at this, and we've seen this time and time again throughout the book. He's coming at this from a place where, he's got something to prove.
Yeah.
He's got something to say.
Yeah, he's so poor, and he's so, like, his life has been so lonely and desperate that to him, IOI is probably this enemy that is means so much more to him. They're not just some abstract, like, corporate villain. He's like so personally invested in his anger with them and everything they represent. So actually, I can buy that. Yeah.
This is kind of that. Would you go to hell if the devil wanted to make a deal with you.
No.
just to hear what the deal was, knowing that you go to hell and say, this place sucks and you suck and kiss my ass, but don't really, because I don't want burnt lip prints on my butt. But that's really just taking it too far. But you get the gist, though, is that, would you, to me, it seems hell? It's bravado, but I think it almost creeps into bravery, because he is kind of going to that place where he's nervous.
I'm sure he thinks of it that way.
Yeah, it's very nervous.
He definitely thinks of it that way. All right, but either way, he's gone into the lair. He's facing the devil, and the devil's name is Nolan Sorrento, or as IOI knows him, is 655-321. Chris, shut the fuck up. Willie.
Yeah.
Do you know the significance of that number?
I think I only know it because I was listening to one of your podcasts where
God
you
damn it.
told me. I'm too big of a fan of your show.
I can't trick you.
Well, okay.
When I found out about it, it blew my fucking mind. And for anybody who's just hopping into the podcast at episode 14, go back and you can hear us make fools of ourselves for weeks at a time. But 655-321 is a significant number because it was the number. How was I going to phrase that? 655-321 was Alex's number or prison number in A Clockwork Orange.
Right, yeah.
One of my favorite movies, one of my favorite books before I read Ready Player One. That says a lot about me that I'm uncomfortable about talking about with you guys. That's between me and my therapist, but whatever.
No, I mean, Clockwork Orange is a masterpiece. It's a disturbing masterpiece, but...
It's very disturbing.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, it's like saying the darkest sides of YouTube. That's my thing. You know, I mean, it's a very...
Crush
hard,
films. That's odd.
Right, yeah, it's a hard book to read. It really is. It's a difficult read, but at the same time, it's a great read. I recommend it to anybody out there, but I will tell you this: if you plan on sleeping alone, good luck, because it is a nightmare fest.
Wow.
On a psychological level.
Can I just have a random observation here?
Please do.
Nolan Sorrento is like a really... I just want to give props to Ernest Cline. That's a really good villain name. It's pretty douchey. No offense to any of the people named Nolan or last name Sorrento that might be fans of this podcast. I really apologize, but for the purposes of this piece of literature, Nolan Sorrento really, I was like, oh, fuck that guy. I don't... Nolan.
Fuck this dude.
Such a dick. Yeah. Such a dick. So pompous. It's so pretentious.
Yeah.
What's your first name? Nolan. Last name Sorrento. You mean like the cheese?
Yeah,
no,
like,
not Sargento.
Yeah.
Damn it.
It's a combination of Chris Nolan and the cheese. And I have nothing against Chris Nolan or the cheese, really, but just that combination.
Just two together.
Yeah, some weird negative reaction in me.
I feel like it's the same thing as like when you hear the name Dakota. You know, whether it's a guy or a girl, it's like Dakota. Okay.
Again, all Dakota fans of this podcast, we love you.
Yeah. Hey, if your name is Dakota and you're listening to the podcast, you're the exception.
It's a great name.
But if your name's Indiana and you're named after the fucking dog,
yeah, exactly.
Just saying. A fucking state and a dog. Just turn the shit off right now.
Well, I mean, I was in Indiana once. The pizza is terrible.
It is. Well, where were we at?
Oh, I don't know. My sister, I'm from New York City, New Jersey area. My sister went to the University of Iowa, of all random places to go.
Okay.
And so we had, and she was 6 years older than me. So when I was 12, we had many cross-country trips to Iowa back and forth. And we'd always just stop off somewhere in random bumfuck Indiana, and we'd order pizza because we're from New York.
Right.
Just to make...
And we would just talk about how bad it is, but
just
eat the
to make
whole
yourself feel better.
I don't know what our.
I want to stop someplace that's got ugly people because.
Well, I'm not going to say the people are ugly, but the pizza.
Look at these ugly motherfuckers. I am so much more handsome than these guys.
Time out. I'm from Indiana, Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago, and I will say, Willie,
Yeah.
The people are fucking ugly.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it.
That's not what I meant.
Not
I meant
wrong.
like go someplace to make yourself a place that is lower expectation, like it fulfills your lowered expectations.
Like this.
That's like you go to the fat people just to make yourself feel thin, and then bitch about the fat people. Like it, and it's a nude beach on top of that. So you can't. It's,
Like I said,
go to
nothing
Papa John's.
against
We'll make fun of them.
nothing against the people of Indiana. Just bad pizza. That's all I'm saying. Do not hate me. You guys are taking much harder lines against random people than I am.
Hey, I'm one of those people. I
All
grew
right,
up.
that's fair. You have the right to.
Yeah, I've got the right. I'll take the dig. Hey,
Right.
guys, Indiana, if you're listening, throw it all back at me.
I'm not saying that
X-Men
Indiana people are ugly.
Fine. X-Men TAS Podcast. Willie Simpson. Just kidding. We'll edit that out.
So I've got a question for you, Ryan.
Okay.
When you read this, because I heard it, so I got to hear it in a voice. When I've been reading this on Kindle, I actually have a different voice in mind. So when you read this, what was the voice you heard for Sorrento?
Good question.
Thanks.
Fuck off. I kind of.
Now you got me googling this actor.
I didn't. Ben Mendelsohn.
Really?
the
No.
actor.
Oh.
Yeah.
But was Ben Mendelsohn like who you heard?
No, Ben Mendelsohn is the one that plays Sorento in the movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But no, I don't know what I thought of. I mean, like it's hard to describe what you think of when you read. You know what I mean? But I will admit this: I had somebody with a Hispanic dialect in mind, just because of the name
Really?
Sorrento. Yeah.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. So the name kind of guided your interpretation of the voice.
It did a little bit, yeah.
When I came back to reread it, I was thinking Agent Smith.
Mr. Anderson.
Like yeah.
We're gonna
Like,
do this
he
again.
goes to greet him. Mr. Barcival, welcome to innovative online
last.
industries.
The famous Parsival has graced us with his presence.
You can hear that, right?
Nolan Sorrento, Chief of Operations.
It's an
It's
honor
To meet you.
you.
What a fucking asshole. God, when you say it like that, I hate him even more.
I mean, I could imagine Hugo Weaving doing this part. It would be awesome. It would be the perfect reference.
It would connect. But I think Ben Mendelsohn will do a better job.
I'm sure he will. I'm it's,
So
for
good.
me that's more candy than reality, but still, just when I read this now, I'm just imagining, his Agent Smith voice. And now you will.
I imagine someone a little more, like less stiff, actually, like a California, like laid back guy with a real smirky, like Wall Street attitude. I don't know. I'm not sure what actor that would describe, but
You just described Steve Jobs.
yeah, maybe.
That's who I pictured when you were doing that.
Now, who's the guy, the actor? You ever see Pirates of Silicon Valley? The actor that played Steve Jobs in that movie, maybe. That.
Oh, who was it?
Oh
who
my
the
God.
fuck played
All
him?
right, let me look it
It
up.
was God damn it,
I can just Google this. Thanks, Google.
because it was Michael C. Hall played Bill Gates.
Right. I got it in a second. Is Noah Weil?
Noah Wiley.
Yeah, Wiley. Is that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, the guy who was on ER.
Right.
Yes, the guy who he his character affectation was that he would eat candy all the time because he was diabetic. Because that's what you do when you're fucking diabetic, is just chug candy all the time.
It depends on what kind of diabetic you are.
Yeah, right. But
Some people got to have like an emergency stash of jelly beans.
I
Gotta
know
have
I
that.
get that, but I feel like no diabetic was eating candy as often as. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase, Chris. This will connect back to something you've referenced on the podcast before.
Mhm.
That affectation, the eating candy while you're diabetic, was something that Noah Wiley used in Donnie Darko.
I didn't know that, but okay, cool.
Remember,
Interesting.
he's always popping candy. Like every scene you see him in, he's popping a piece of candy in his mouth.
No,
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
realize that, but okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I apologize. It was not. Was he on ER?
I don't
He
know.
was on ER.
I think he was.
He was on it. Yes, he was.
Yeah, but he was in Donnie Darko. He's a pivotal character in Donnie Darko.
He was one of the teachers.
Yeah, the science teacher.
I only saw that movie once. I have so little memory outside of the song that's from the movie.
It's a good movie. I've seen it at least 5 times.
Wow.
I really enjoy it. Of all the movies that have like its own sort of view on time and time travel, and I'm kind of picky about how people fuck with time travel because it's a bit like magic. Like if you prescribe to like a particular thought, then some shit can happen and some exceptions can happen, and if you don't work that in right, it kind of ruins it for me. But this had a whole different spin that I really enjoyed.
They did it very close to perfectly.
Yeah,
I would say.
And they had this very, probably, if not the first film, one of the first ones to do this real world thing. Like they had a website where they had articles about the teacher retiring and then about weird things happening in the neighborhood. You could click on links, and there was a whole deeper
It was like an ARG.
Yes, exactly like an ARG. And I actually searched back through the Wayback Machine to find the website and the pages, and they're like really 1990s looking. It was just trippy. But now that I hear you talk about like sort of creepy businessmen, I was thinking I can imagine like a Christian Bale American Psycho.
Yes, I was gonna say him too. Absolutely, but blonde haired.
But blonde hair, sure. I was thinking gray, blonde. Why not?
Thought of Sorento is blonde haired.
I think isn't he blonde hair?
Does he say that?
I feel like I remember that detail from rereading it recently, but I could be wrong.
I
don't remember.
I do not recall that. I feel like he's a Nazi, but
well, I mean, let's not say all blonde-haired people are Nazis. Listeners with blonde hair. I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna keep trying to preserve your audience.
You heard it here first. Willie Simpson thinks everyone with blonde hair is Nazi.
Right here, blonde hair. Blonde hair. It says he has blonde hair, brown eyes, and a hawkish nose.
Really?
Oh man, I remember the hawkish nose, but the blonde hair blew right past me.
That blew past me too.
And it says he's wearing his. Can we talk about his navy blue bodysuit with the gold epaulets?
Please do.
And okay, so I don't really care about his outfit, but tell me generally what you guys think about the idea that IOI mandated that all their like Sixer goons wear uniforms.
They're all the same person. They're all the same avatar.
Yeah, but like,
except for his.
This, like, I love this book so much. Let me get that straight to the audience. I'm not here to nitpick it and say it's bad. But one thing
bash the shit out of this. Just want to say,
one thing that stuck out to me from a writing perspective, like, it would have made so much more sense that you couldn't tell if someone was a Sixer spy. Like, or the concept that someone could be working for the Sixers and you wouldn't know it. But, without spoiling anything, like, it's pretty safe to say that, everyone that works for IOI and the Oasis is wearing a uniform and they're easily identifiable. And it just felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity. And, like, that even Sorento has his own uniform as well, Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think he was trying to build them up to be kind of a Gestapo
Yeah.
of the Oasis. Like he was trying to, the thing that comes to mind, and I know you're going to kind of snicker at this, but you remember that commercial that Apple did back in the 80s?
Early one?
Yeah. Where everybody like shows up in the in like the stadium kind of area, and they're all dressed the same.
That giant screen.
Yeah.
You must all do the same thing.
And they were all skinheads in real life, which was weird.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
That's from the Apple movie.
I did not know
that Steve Jobs hired. I don't know if Steve Jobs personally hired, but his casting director hired skinheads to be the extras for some reason.
Okay.
It feels like it would just be easier to just hire a bunch of extras and shave their heads.
Well, I mean,
you think we're skinheads and ask them not to. Who knows? Regardless, I'm gonna cut that part out.
I like Ryan. I like your explanation better. That they're like this Gestapo force in the Oasis, and you almost kind of fear them when you see them. And right. That is kind of terrifying. That didn't come across to me in the reading, but my stupid explanation as to why IOI all makes them wear the same uniform was free advertising.
Sure.
Well, all right.
Like the way I got like there's strength in numbers. That's a common adage. But I think that they wanted a show of force within the Oasis. I think their message in dressing everybody the same is that this is a force that you can't stop, no matter what you do.
Or
so we're gonna find the key first.
Yeah.
Because we have that strength in numbers. We are a force to be reckoned with, and it's as much as the Gunters want to say like, yeah, we kill every sucksor we come across, there's still, every time they're referenced, there's still an element of fear associated with them.
But
very small one.
They could be a hopeful symbol to people, because to be a Sixer, as Parzival Wade explains, is to get a job with benefits and like a stable salary or something. So it's in a way, it's like people could be inspired. It's like, yeah, maybe I should join the Sixers. I live in a rat hole, irradiated city somewhere. And
so you saw them more as a cult than a company.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand IOI's like thinking on the uniforming of their agents.
I think it's a blend of both.
Right.
I think they're part cult, part company.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I see what you mean. Cult in like the way where people are into the cult.
Exactly, where they're like, hey, come in here.
Yeah.
Bring your talents here. You can participate with us, and we will find the key together, and together we will share the spoils. We know the way. And the Gunters are just kind of like saying, no, fuck that. They want to ruin the world. And it's just this sort of like, this fight. But regardless, IOI is both corporate and cult.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I feel like today...
That's true of many tech companies.
Of a lot of corporations.
Right, yeah.
When you look at leadership structure, you look at the way of inspiring people, it's like, read any leadership book about how to bring a company on board. They incorporate both parts of IOI, keep an eye on profit, but at the same time, inspire your people. And I feel like IOI really is kind of a satire of that.
Yes.
They're both sides. They're the cultish side of leadership, but they're the corporate side of leadership.
Yeah.
I've always...
it's the mask on and the mask off.
When I read through the book, I just felt like it was like the saddest of sad cubicle farms. Like for me, it wasn't like the tech companies that were producing a cult. To me, it was the tech companies of the 90s and maybe even the Mad Men of the 50s and 60s, where it was just, you're at your desk, you're slaving away, you're expected to perform. This is what you'll do. Very military-esque, very uniform, like very gray. Like it was just the cubicle farm. It was like the green, and I'll reference the Matrix again. It was sort of that green, drizzly, dismal environment of everybody must adhere to be the same in order to be considered equal. But in regards to the everyone in IOI, as far as their avatars looking identical, I think the advantage is twofold. First, any person who is driving an avatar can switch seats. This is not like Parzival, who's in his van, connects to his console that's connected to his account. And literally his environment that he is within is also a part of his avatar. I mean, there's a full connectivity. But when they talk about it in the chapter, there's no connectivity. Anybody can swap into any person. This is like driving the company van or a company fleet of vans. Any person can immediately switch seats and take over. So there is no personalization to the avatars. Plus, when you kill one, another one pops up in its place. They all look the same. So there's this sort of uniformity. But I think the other thing is, and as they mentioned here as they're walking through the hallways, that, they stand and salute Sorento, and Sorrento's just like, meh, doesn't even acknowledge their existence. To me, and his avatar looks like him. To me, that's somebody that says, these guys are expendable. Fuck them. This is like the attitude of the business as a whole, that only the executives matter and everyone else is a no-faced, no-name peon with a specialization that can be replaced in a snap.
Can I say to that, though, that I agree, and that's an evil attitude to have, but they are in the Oasis, so it's not like they're expendable, but they're not. He's not like killing his coworkers necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you die as an avatar, you know, it's not a big deal. So he's not like a real general of a real army that is just like and a real evil general that just thinks his troops are all cannon fodder. So points for Sorrento.
Well,
I don't know why I made a point of
he doesn't have to care who the hell they are because
Right, yeah.
they all look the same.
It's kind of cannon fodder is a very special phrase around this podcast.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I appreciate
Chris's
that.
old gamer tag.
Oh, cool. All right. I intuited
I'm
that
so
somewhere.
glad someone else recognized that. That's great.
I'm on the show, Chris. So.
Oh, I see.
Well, I meant that someone else outside of the show would remember the term cannon fodder. There was a Blues Brothers 2000 quote that I thought was interesting, which was when
wow. Hey
Deep
guys,
cut.
hold on, time out. I want to freeze this moment in time. I think this is the first time anybody in a podcast has ever referenced Blues Brothers 2000. Chris, go ahead.
What?
Wait, no, that's
That
not
was
true.
a great movie.
I've got my own
enjoyed
Blues
that.
Brothers 2000 podcast where I analyze it minute by minute.
You're fucking lying.
No, yes, I am.
Serious?
No.
Oh. That's not nice. That's
All right, go on. I want to hear this quote.
Go on about the only thing that Jim Belushi did that anybody ever cared about.
all right. So Mighty Max there, and he says the suit's real neat, but do I have to wear the hat? And Elwood Blues comes back. He says these are unsophisticated men. They only respond to fear and draw of lucre. If we elicit this by using iconographic symbols and psychological intimidation, the way we look together present a uniform image of strength and organization. Don't say anything. Look mean. No smiling.
So he's Hitler. That's what you're saying.
No.
It's uniformity, strength through uniformity, and part of uniformity is looking the same.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Not everything has to be the Nazis and Hitler. I mean, the Beatles employed. They wore the same outfits.
They did.
You know, Mick Jagger.
No, not Hitler.
Yeah.
Beatles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
strength comes with everybody looking the same, is what you said.
Intimidation through an appearance of organization. Like they've got their shit together, kind of reflects back onto, fuck, I don't have my shit together.
Right.
You know, if they appear more organized, maybe they are more organized. So there's like a marketing perception.
Yeah, and a strong Hitler vibe from that. I don't know why. It's kind of him.
There's much Nazism in those Blues Brothers movies. That's a big.
Really is.
That's an element to the story.
There's even Nazis referenced.
There are Nazis
in Blues Brothers. And one of them looks exactly like Jeff Sessions. I just have to say, the leader of the Nazi party in the first Blues Brothers movie looks exactly like Jeff Sessions. He was. So, we got a lot of dialogue here, guys.
Yeah.
How much do you want to dive into the dialogue? Do you
Well,
guys have any
let's do that.
particular notes? Please.
I do. I have plenty of notes.
Bring them.
All right. Well, I mean, so they're talking. So Sorrento's laying his pitch to Wade, and Wade is being very, he's trying to be as aloof as possible. And part of Sorrento's pitch is that he's saying it's like, oh, you're gonna have all the resources of IOI, and it's better than you thought because, and like Ryan, you alluded to, he's basically saying we figured out a way to cheat. And so I to nitpick again, I distinctly remember James Halliday in his contest video, like unleashing this endless like terms of agreement contract that is like almost illegible. Is that the right word? It's unreadable at a certain point because the print is so microscopic, and it goes on for like
Charlie the Chocolate Factory.
It goes on
for
yeah, exactly.
half a fucking document, and it just gets smaller and smaller.
Right. That had to be a reference to that, but so it's like I feel like somewhere Halliday would have included something like it's been so explicit against cheating, and also like couldn't if you also just included the fact like, hey, like I don't want IOI to win my money in my company. He could have thrown that line in there as well. Like I'm surprised that that's not in his endless terms of service agreement.
Here's the thing.
No family and friends, no IOI.
Here's the thing. I don't know that IOI existed when Halliday was still alive.
Wow.
Oh,
they had to. I disagree with that analysis.
Based
The minute you
on
say
what?
that,
they seem to be the company that controls like the entire like cable system of the world, all the like the telecommunications. Unless there was like some massive merger, if that's what you're alluding to, if like AT&T and Sprint and Verizon all merged into IOI after the contest was formed, I could see that maybe.
Well, maybe that's necessary, but I mean, we're 5 years into the contest at this point. My point is, I mean, IOI is not really referenced in the prelude or the prologue chapter, right?
Yeah.
They're not really.
Which there was
up.
a long contract of the sorts, more of a will than anything else, but a contract nonetheless.
Right, and they don't really put any safeguards against somebody like IOI. You feel like if Suxors existed, or anything like Suxors, he would put that in there.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Oasis really blew up after he put that stipulation in his will, where he said, you know, if you do, you know, if you find this egg, you win my fortune, $249 billion or whatever it is.
No,
you know
I
what
disagree. The Oasis had to have been like insanely world dominatingly popular before the contest.
Well, it wasn't, but it was, but the contest really triggered people to come together. And I think the main problem here is that, first off, true Gunter organizations that really came together on a professional level to bring together resources in order to hunt for the egg is not much different than IOI. I mean, IOI takes it to a corporate level, but that's still, and he does make a mention here, hey, look, we're not that much different than a Gunter organization, a Gunter clan. And in truth, if a Gunter clan split ownership, that clan would probably become the next IOI. Well, they'd find a new way to control it and monetize it potentially. So, frankly, the Gunter clans might also have a similar, might pose a similar danger to it, not so much as IOI, because IOI is like.
I want to make a counterpoint to Willie's point. Not, I mean, along with Willie's point, really. Which is that IOI might be responsible for the downfall of humanity in an opposite way of what the Oasis was. You know what I mean? Like, they're just a corporate entity chugging along.
Right.
You know, trying, you know, making money in this post-apocalyptic kind of thing, or pre-apocalyptic, really. I mean, the Oasis is sort of like a salve to the apocalypse. But what was the, you know, we've gotten to this discussion before. Was the Oasis, you know, the trigger for what will be the apocalypse, or was it, you know, humanity? And is IOI, this goes back to the weird chapter, since John's not here, we can talk about it. Is IOI the cure, or are they the cause? I feel like because they're in conflict with one another, you know, I mean, in certain ways, IOI is trying to create like a normalcy within the world, you know, by saying, like, you know, there is a corporation that's in charge. There is a way that you're going to get power. There is a way that you're going to get the internet. There is a way that you're going to be able to access the Oasis. We're going to do it, but you have to pay for it because we can't continue to float you people. But at the same time, GSS is like, no, we've got a system built in for that.
But GSS already has a system for floating. Their economy is stronger than real economies, and in order to go anywhere, you got to pay for shit. So they have, like, it's one of those free to play but pay once you get in.
I get
kind of situations.
I get the effect, but I'm talking like pre that, like cause.
Right. Well, and then to say that, well, we're going to go in and we're just going to charge a monthly fee, and, you know, to somebody like Parzival, this would be a killer for anybody who can't afford. That's a lot of people who couldn't afford it. It turns into an elite extravagance rather than something everyone has access to.
Not to cut you off, Chris, I just have a lot of thoughts about the monthly fee, but but continue though.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
I'm gonna moderate just in the middle of this discussion right here.
Okay.
I feel like the next part of the conversation, biggest part of my notes, is net neutrality.
Okay.
Is that where you guys were going?
No, I wasn't going there.
Okay, well then go where you're going.
It's not that big of a point, but, you know, so part of Sorrento's pitch is that, you know, once the IOI takes over the Oasis, they're going to charge a monthly fee. They're going to streamline the experience. They're going to have, like, filters of content. So my first thought was, like, my first question really is, what do you guys think the size of GSSs compared to IOI, it seems that GSS probably must have to rival IOI in terms of a corporate titan.
I think it trumps it.
Right, yeah, and probably even trumps it. So, and they seem to be doing well for themselves. So this idea that like there's this need to monetize the Oasis seems, it's almost like if GSS is successfully running this company and they're better than IOI, why does IOI think that a monthly fee is a better way to run the place? And second, I'd have to say, and this is my main point, is that the Oasis is already fucking expensive as it is. You know, from Wade's description, he's just stranded on Ludus for like 99% of his life. That he's on the Oasis. He can't go anywhere. He can't afford anything. He can't buy a spaceship to travel places. He couldn't afford the fuel. He wouldn't be able to buy weapons, you know. He it's just like he can't teleport anywhere. Like it doesn't seem like, it already seems like the Oasis is extremely cost prohibitive to millions of people who might have access to it. They can't do anything in it anyway. And I find to me, a monthly fee in a state of a world where the world's in complete freefall and infrastructure chaos, and there's cities have been like nuked. It's like, I don't know like how much money you could squeeze out of a world like that.
So the gist here was what you're saying is that it's already limiting, and any more limiting is like trying to squeeze blood out of a stone.
Yeah.
But the one thing that the Oasis does provide is a very, very good free education, and the ability to have access to an enormous amount of information and entertainment and just a wealth of stuff. I mean, there's tons of people in this period of time, obviously, they're poor based on how the book portrays it.
Right.
But what they do have is they have access to goggles and a computer and the internet, and that for you to go to school, you've got free access to that unless you get really crappy grades. So to have that is incredibly empowering. It means that the poorest of your people still have access to some of the best education. Now, if you are going to go and take over a company from a corporate perspective, if there's a shortcut for a smaller company to gobble and control a bigger company, that makes sense. You know, and if IOI could do that, that's like a shortcut to dominating another company. Like if there was something in Google that was kind of like, if a person can do this special thing, they get all of Google. And, you know, if you were the guy that could do it, you would get all of Google. No questions asked. You would own Google. And now it's up to you to continue to monetize it as you want. And you're like, screw it. We're going to put up advertisements, a lot more advertisements, and we're going to dick with the search engine system, and we're going to charge people. Yeah, make Google a subscription system. And that's it. I almost think that if IOI took over, it would be so bad, it would cause a massive revolution that maybe the world needs.
Right. That's funny.
You know, that if it became elitist, like if you had to pay a subscription to be in, your massive amount of people that just cannot afford it could no longer go to work.
Well, like I said, I'm just imagining a scenario where there's just so many people that already just can't afford the Oasis in any meaningful way. And it just seems, I don't know, the way Wade's always talking about the expense of doing anything there, that it's a pay as you play experience, and
well, I think that's true about some parts of it.
Right.
But other parts are no kill, other parts are kind of mallish, other parts there's a huge economy going on, and I don't mean like an economy where people are buying like really expensive swords. I mean, there are people who are doing customer support, there are people who are working at strip clubs. Like there are full on VR businesses and locations that obviously people aren't getting killed in. But these are not places that are attractive to him. That's like the work planets, you know? Right, yeah, so I think like there is a large number of places where there would be potential for business. And that's where the money part would come in. Like if you're making money in the Oasis, yeah, it used to be free. Now it's going to cost you to come in and make money.
Speaking of making money, I'm going to push us forward a little bit.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
Speaking of making money, basically at this point in the chapter, Nolan Sorrento courts Parzival kind of the way that you'd suspect he would in this scenario. When you saw the initial invite, you kind of expected Nolan was going to come in there with a scheme or something like that. IOI had a hand to play. And he comes into this conversation, and he's got three offers. Is it 3 offers?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
The first is, I would say, paltry. What do you think?
Yes.
Well, let's go over what that first offer was.
Okay, so that first offer was it 25 million
if you
when he-
win.
if he found the egg,
Yeah.
and then what was it?
$2.5 million a year salary,
Okay.
and dental benefits.
Yeah, and all kinds of benefits, and he's the chief oologist. He's the cock of the walk, baby.
So the first question is, what is the rate of inflation 30 years from now? That
we've tried to crack that fucking nut
Oh, yeah?
1,000
Okay.
times, and it always ends up in a Bitcoin conversation. But really, I mean, this first one, no matter what the rate of inflation, it probably pales in comparison to what Sorrento's being paid. It definitely, if you want to put it on scale, what is the amount that he could win if he did it on his own? 249 billion fucking dollars.
He could ask for 1% of that and be a billionaire. That's what he should have done.
25 million. Is that 1%?
No, that's
No, not even close. It's a fraction of a fraction, unfortunately.
How much?
But it's a good deal for
What
IOI.
percentage is 25 million of 249 billion?
It's like 0.00 something 1% would be 2.5 billion, 2.59 billion. So that's 1%. So it would be like probably a tenth of that, maybe a tenth of
$5 and some change.
Tree fitty.
Yeah.
$3.50.
Yeah. So
$2.
I just I hate. This is why this part of this chapter rubs me the wrong way, is because when Wade he negotiates back at Sorrento, he's like, I want 50 million when I find the egg.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, ask for $1 billion. Like, what's the difference at that point? You know?
I want 2 piles of shit for your good sir.
When I read this, it was kind of like, you're going to have control over 5,000 units. You'll be right under me. They will be reporting to you. You're going to get $2.5 million a year and 25 million when you find the egg, and you're just going to be a consultant. I mean, you'll work here, but you're just going to be a consultant. So it means you're not necessarily.
He's the head of the oology department.
Well, yeah, but he specifically says, so I'll just cut to the chase. IOI wants to recruit you as a consultant to assist with our search for Halliday's Easter egg.
Right. Okay.
So this is a very executive consultant position.
Right.
Right.
But as soon as they find it, his shit would be cut loose. That's why he would get like a $25 Easter egg. What is it called? A parachute egg or a golden egg or something.
Golden parachute.
Golden parachute. But it gets 25 million. And I saw that and I was like, I don't know that I hate any business enough not to take that deal.
Well, first of all, he has to find the egg, which isn't a guarantee. So
Does he?
yeah, it says that he only gets to 25 million if he finds the egg.
Yeah, but he could squeeze that. What if? Okay, fine. But if they look for the egg for the next 10 years.
But I mean, Sorrento says the contest could end tomorrow. That's why he needs to decide right now.
But it might not. They've been at it for 5 years. It might stop at the first.
We could go in any number of directions on that, though. You could say
he could fucking stall on that. Like, we're all close, man. We're so close, I can feel it.
What if an asteroid hit the world and it fucking destroyed most of the IOI headquarters, and technically, the contest doesn't end for another 15 years?
I just think IOI is dumb and Wade is dumb. Like IOI should have offered Wade this. He's like, listen, we're gonna make you this celebrity leader of our company, where we're gonna pitch you as the hero of the Oasis. Where we're gonna, we'll pay you millions and millions of dollars behind the scenes. You're gonna be leading the exciting adventure to find Halliday's egg, and we're gonna make movies about you, and you're gonna be in commercial. They could have sold him on being a star or something. Instead, they pitch him this crappy office job.
Well, hold on a second though. Time out. You're already a star.
But he's giving that up right away to work for IO. He'd be giving that up immediately.
I think that would be. I think that would be condescending. That would be insulting. It's kind of like he's already quite literally as being put by by H, a god. He already is a god.
that's
Like
why-
if he wanted all that, he could totally have it.
I totally agree, and that's why part of why I think their offer is really stupid too. They're like horribly misreading the situation, and I already expressed why I thought Wade is kind of dumb for even like going to this meeting.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just so I mean that's just my like opinion on like I just find it like ridiculous, like this back and forth negotiation. I know it's all in jest that Wade is just there to try to troll them, and that IOI already suspects that he's not going to play ball, but
You
I
know
love
what?
that he puts him in the pinch.
You know what?
what?
You guys should do a podcast together. You can see it.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm getting all charged up here.
No, it's great, man.
My fucking ass would be like, actually, I like that deal, but tell me what else you got going on. Like,
No,
what's
I mean, like,
number two?
here's the thing. For me, you're dealing with a kid who has been completely impoverished for most of his life. I mean, like, when he got $20,000 out of the tomb, he said, "This is more money than I've ever seen." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy is offering him $25 million to close, plus bonuses throughout. I don't care who
And power.
fuck you are. I don't care who you are. That has got to be tempting.
Mm.
Yes.
And and deal number 2.
Yeah.
Mm.
All you have to do is show us where the gate is. Walk
Okay.
through right up to the second gate. That's all you got to do. And even Wade says he may or may not figure it out from there. They
Right.
may or may not have a good joust player. Who knows? I could this is his moment of near collapse where he says, "Well, I might take that. If I were smarter, I probably would have taken that because it's kind of in their hands at that point." I
Yeah.
mean, like,
You're handing off knowledge
first
that
one
you
was-
know they're going to figure out.
the first one was bullshit. The second one was probably kind of tempting.
Yes, I agree. The second one is definitely tempting.
It's anonymous. It's a lot of cash. Everyone will be on the same playing ground when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the added caveat, you're not the only one on the fucking board anymore.
Yeah.
So this could have come from any one of them. They can't
Yep.
pinpoint it on you.
At
At this point,
yeah.
they can't pinpoint it on you.
Can I say to this too that I find it hard to believe, and like I said, I love this book. But-
Baby, I think you're beautiful, but ooh, boy, that dress makes you look fat. Is that where we're going with this?
No,
Butterface.
Sorrento.
God.
Butterface.
Yeah. Sorrento describes, a relentless corporation that has like experts working round the clock to try to crack these clues. So I really do find it hard to believe that IOI hasn't figured out the first key and gate yet. That kind of like stuns me that they just, I don't know, like that. I just feel that because I'm sure they've hired like incredibly gifted cryptologists and other like analytical geniuses that they pay millions of dollars to figure out, what the secret of Halliday's treasures are. And like to me that like it just I found it hard to believe that IOI can't do this on their own. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Chris,
Go ahead.
I'm sure you have an opinion.
I always have an opinion, dude.
Go for it.
I feel like we kind of hit this in a couple of chapters because once we got to the chapter about being in school and the word ludus to be not just a place of education or learning, but learning being like a game.
Right.
That I don't remember what guest we had on here, but someone had mentioned how it was unbelievable that with all the resources
Yes.
that IOI had not figured such a simple clue
I agree.
out. That it was that, even given how much the book didn't really focus on it until that point, it'd be kind of like, well, if we had that, I guess, information that was even potentially a thing, then we would have figured it out. Right? But I think that one of the things we settled on was the idea that it's not about having experts with niche focuses. Like you got Bob, who is an expert in movies for the year 1982.
Right.
And then Tony over there, that's an expert in video games from A to B. You have to be widespread to connect the things together. You have to be a Renaissance man of that era in order to bring the pieces together to finally bring you to that place where you know what the answer is.
Yeah.
And that's not something IOI has. They boast about having tons of niche experts.
Right.
But with Nolan Sorrento being the guy that brings the strings together, he's not the strong guy. He's the movie star, if you will. Really high up on having done video games and stuff, and now they've brought him into this company. He's the Iceman. That's a great example. Really cocky and arrogant, but he does not have due to that arrogance, doesn't have the widespread knowledge. Figures, well, fuck it, I don't have to learn it if I got a bazillion people under my control who'd learn it for me.
That's plausible. I'm with you there. Yeah.
You have to have one person that can tie these strings together. Was at least my argument.
Well, I think the point that, and I don't want to speak for Willie here, but I think the point that Willie's making is like, you have a team of 5,000 people. That's 5,000 fucking individual brains working toward one end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all working toward one goal. So at any point, that first person's going to get across the line. And guess what? At the very end of it, well, I don't want to get into that because it's a couple chapters ahead.
Right. Yeah, we can't.
But at the same time, this is 5,000 people working toward one goal. You've got one fucking teenager's brain, not to denigrate any teenagers out there, but I'm an adult and up against 5,000 brains, I'm fucked. I'm going to lose Jeopardy against 5,000 brains every time.
I have to say that Wade is presented as superhuman, though.
Yeah.
The level of research they say he does is unfathomable to me as well. It is.
Well, no, that's what we talked about with Aaron. It was Aaron.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Aaron, fucking the Pete. When he was on the podcast, we talked about it like it would be, as far as timelines go, it would be impossible for him to digest all of the shit that he digested.
Just saying that he read all the books of all the authors is ridiculous. All the
books, all the authors, all the movies,
all the music,
games,
memorized everything. Yeah, how does he have time to play? I feel like if you're playing video games to the expert level like he is, you don't have time to read like endless amount of novels.
Dude, it took us 2 weeks to do this fucking podcast.
Or memorize dozens of movies.
Podcast. That's right.
I mean, think about the movies that he's had to memorize.
Yeah.
I mean, just to get the right one and have memorized that fucking movie.
Dude, I watched War Games like 2 days ago, and I love that movie. I've seen it a million times. And I was like playing the game in my mind like to see if I could guess any of Matthew Broderick's dialogue. It was impossible because so much of his dialogue is just like, oh yeah, hey, oh, what's up, guys? Like completely incidental, like not memorable. He wasn't saying like the Force will be with you always. He was just saying like completely untrackable, normal conversational things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not talking about like one-liners like what about the Twinkie?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of you guys mentioned that Ghostbusters would be like the best movie to play through. That
was John.
Right.
Oh my God, I love that.
That would be I agree. That movie, I'd have the smallest 1% chance to maybe to get my way through it, but I doubt it. Because I'm
Ferris
sure
Bueller is mine.
Yeah, that's another great choice too. But Ferris Bueller is probably way harder than Ghostbusters, though. I bet.
I could do Ferris Bueller today. I guarantee it.
Okay, that's impressive. That's awesome. But anyway, if you watch War Games, there's nothing that Matthew Broderick says that's like you would just like have remembered him. You know what I mean? Even if
it'd have to be karaoke for me.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to see the words going across the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never done this on the podcast, even a part that was edited out. I'm going to do the first couple minutes of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, just to prove it.
Okay.
Just to prove that I can.
All right. Do I need to pull out the quotes here?
The movie starts. Tom, dog barks. What's wrong? What's wrong? For Christ's sake, look at him, honey. He says his stomach hurts and he's seeing spots. Papa, I can't see that far. What's wrong, champ? I'm telling you, man. I think I mixed up a couple of the lines there, but
no. That's how I remember it. I can see it in my mind.
That's pretty impressive.
Well done.
No, dude. If just given the Ferris parts, I could do it.
I don't know. It seems tough.
But to remember not just one movie, like one niche movie,
Yeah.
he had to remember dozens,
It could have been
memorize
any
dozens
movie,
of
yeah.
movies. Yeah, because they picked like one movie that he knew, like it wasn't like coincidental. That happened to be the one thing I knew how to
Right.
do. No, he fucking memorized dozens of movies.
How did
evidently.
Shoto and Daido pass the War Games test? that really blows my mind.
Through a language barrier.
I know. There's no way.
Fucking
I
incredible.
wonder if the movie was like translated.
I gotta
Yeah.
say, dude, like the whole time that I read this book, I thought Dido and Shoto were the best Gunters.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they were kind
That's
of
a good debate. I don't
The
know.
because here's the thing. They had to learn a different language. Now,
Right.
I
Oh,
don't
right, yeah.
know what the Oasis does as far as like translating things. Maybe they automate that.
Right.
They ever bring that up in the book? I don't think they do.
They do. Well, they through another, without giving spoilers, they talk about translation issues later, and they
Okay.
say it's not reliable.
Right. But still, I mean, like you're talking about a thousands of page tome,
Right.
So it's Siri.
in Anorak's Almanac.
Right.
Plus, I mean, all the other hurdles of interacting with other Gunters or interacting with NPCs.
They speak English though.
They do, but they had to learn English.
Yeah.
Now think about it. Like, is it Daito? We can edit this out, but is it Daito or Shoto that dies? It's Daito. isn't it?
Daido.
Dido's the smaller one. Yeah,
And Shoto, no, Daido's the older one, and Shoto's the one that is better with English.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
but Shoto's only like 13, right?
Right. Or 14 or something.
Yeah. So when the hunt came about, he was still like 8 years old.
Yeah, yeah. They
8
said
or
I
9.
think he had an American parent, maybe, or something of that nature.
I don't recall that.
That could be out of my ass. I don't know.
It might be. I don't know.
I thought blonde hair was out of your ass, but
You know
evidently
what?
it is in
I'll
there.
tell you something. If I denied it right now, that would be out of my ass.
Mm.
I can't really argue that point.
Okay.
But still, Japanese is like his native language. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's like, regardless of whether or not you have an American parent, regardless of whether or not English is your second language, the fact that it's your second language automatically puts you at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I would
automatic.
hate
Yeah,
to have had
definitely.
I would hate it if the movie was like Drunken Master,
Right.
only in the original dialect.
Exactly. Like imagine if a guy came out and he said, "I have $249 billion to give to you if you can figure out my intricate riddle
In
which
English.
is very specific. By the way, you got to learn it in Italian,
Oh right,
Good
yeah.
fucker, and you've never spoken Italian in your life. So all of a sudden, okay, before I learn all of these fucking movies, which by the way are originally in English, and all this music, which is originally in English, and all these other things, which are all originally in English, I have to learn the fucking language first.
Yeah.
Huge barrier to get over.
Yeah.
You're at a disadvantage automatically.
Well, Wade had to learn Latin. I mean, that wasn't easy.
But
Yeah,
for
but
a
it did-
part, for
But
a
it did
part,
get him to the first clue.
Yeah.
for a part, for
Yeah.
one part, not the whole fucking thing.
Him and Artemis, the only ones who figured that out.
Right, somehow. Okay, so the third.
Wade's the best Gunter, by the way.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of indisputable.
Chris,
Hmm.
who's the best Gunter? You're gonna say Artemis, I feel.
Who's the best Gunter? But I think it's Wade. I think that he took all aspects of the game the most seriously.
Okay.
Like Artemis focused on certain things and not others, and H focused on certain things and not others, and that got them far in the Oasis in certain respects. But Wade had the most poverty to give him the most drive to learn the widest range.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
I had Ray on. I recorded an episode of the podcast last night with Gunter Ray, which will come out very soon.
I don't think Ray is the best.
Ray is a blogger
I
that I
know.
interviewed.
Yeah, I was just kind of moving him aside. I don't think he's the best.
She.
Oh, my bad. She.
Yeah, Gunter Ray is a she, and she was
All
my
right.
guest on the podcast last night. And asshole,
Had to edit that out.
she's the one that runs she runs the Tumblr blog Artie's Missives, which a lot of people know.
Okay. all
Yeah.
right.
And Ray was making the argument to me last night that Artie, of course, is the best Gunter. And she made some points that are hard to refute. First of all, who found the Tomb of Horrors first?
Artemis.
Who found the second gate first?
Artemis.
What's the reason that Wade reaches the third gate? He picks up Artemis's shoes.
No, but fuck this.
She was the most prepared.
She didn't.
Knew
Wade.
what the fuck he was doing.
We're not in recording. We're in a non-edit mode, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, we're totally. This is all the game.
Because Wade figures out one of the gates before Artemis.
Which one?
I can say, right?
The third gate.
No, is that the third one? The one with the
Rush.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, what was right before Rush was Blade Runner.
He didn't figure that out before her, though, did he?
Yes, he did. The contest was all but over until.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was after the second gate. Yeah. No. That was the Rush thing.
Yeah, Rush
think
came out. Well, Rush. Everyone would have gotten Rush. The Rush clue was obvious.
Right.
But the Blade Runner was like impossible.
The foil.
Right. Yeah, that was insane. That was quite the feat by Wade.
There's
I might.
excellent piece of fan fiction about that. By the way, where they rewrite that chapter.
Yeah.
And they explain why IOI found the next step before Wade did. It's really fucking cool. I'll have to share it with you.
Yeah, share that with me.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that Artemis and H aren't great hunters like Leet, right? What I'm saying is that you don't have to be first to be best. You have to excel beyond.
Yeah.
You can catch up to somebody who stumbles. Just because they're ahead of you doesn't make you them better. It's that you can keep pace and move beyond. And he has not only the breadth, but depth of knowledge. Because she comes off and says, who the fucking Joust? Joust? Well, Joust was on the fucking list of games that he liked. Why wasn't she practiced up on Joust?
And if she fucking was good at Pac-Man, she would have survived at the end too.
It's
here's the
through
thing.
his breadth and depth that he was able to persevere beyond the stumblings that everyone has.
Here's the thing. If he had been adept at figuring out riddles, he would have found the thing first. If she had been adept at Joust, she would have beat it first.
Yeah.
So I call it a fucking draw.
But I don't think so. They both found it. They both figured out the riddle independently, the initial one.
But she found it first.
So what?
That is impressive that she found it first. I think that is a
I'm
legit
just saying.
accomplishment.
That's a matter of happenstance.
Oh,
Really?
fuck off, Chris. Come on, man.
How is that? Look,
No.
she could have found it a year earlier and been done it for a
It's
year.
not
She
happening.
could have found it a week later, and it wouldn't matter because they didn't cross. They both found it.
I think it's happened. I think no, it's not happenstance. I think that's like an insane accomplishment that she finds it first by 5 weeks.
Hold on, I gotta check.
I think it's a happenstance that they find it in such a close time relative to each other.
Sure.
That is kind of a little surprising.
Well, I mean, the book kind of makes it so they run into each other, and that makes sense.
Of course, and
Right.
that's a plot
Yeah,
device.
that's right. That's
but
true, yeah.
Still, all I'm saying is, if you want to talk about acuity, they're at the same level.
They definitely
There's
are.
no
yeah.
denying that.
Oh, yeah.
At the very least, they're even.
I think Wade's just more like insane. Like one of you guys just said it. He's way more. I think Chris, you just said it. He's got way more breadth of something, passion.
He's got more breadth and more depth in the material.
Yeah, he's more obsessed than Artemis in a strange way.
I mean, if we were talking about, like, if it came down to a physical competition in the Oasis, he'd be fucked. Like, that's not where he focused his reserves. Like, H would slaughter his ass, and Artemis would absolutely pulverize him. There's no question about it.
You know what the difference is? Artemis's goal is to save the world, and Wade's goal is only to win the contest.
Right.
Well, I think both are good motivators.
Yeah, but I mean, but the point is, like, that might give Wade a small edge of like passion because he just is only obsessed with the contest. He doesn't care about anything else in the world. Artemis has like a life outside the Oasis to an extent.
When we talk about the amount
it.
of time, when we talk about the amount of time it takes to learn this material, because we just said a few minutes ago, how's that fucking possible? All the books, all the movies you'd have to memorize, all the songs you have to listen to, and all the video games you got to become master at.
Yeah,
How is it possible?
it's not.
Well,
oh yeah,
you know,
that's
Artemis and H are like Artemis blocks, and H is a professional fighter, so they spend time getting good at other things in the Oasis because they can. The time that Parsifal has to dedicate that would otherwise go to something like
right.
that.
He's almost forced.
He can't afford that level.
Yeah, yeah.
He's forced to just fucking research. That is his game.
That's true.
So I'm not saying that they're not all elite, or that in other instances that the other two wouldn't be better than him. I'm just saying that in these particular circumstances, first does not indicate better. You know, that he was able to move beyond, even though they got to a certain point before him.
I agree with you.
I
the
agree.
First person to cross the gate was not better.
Can I going back to the chapter here, I feel like Wade's entire plan here with IOI, and this might be redundant, you can cut this out too, is that it's just all a big psych. Like that that's his only motivation, was to like go to this meeting
to troll.
Yeah, it's just psych.
Just troll him. Yeah.
It's like you showed them Wade. And also, okay, and then I want, getting back on track here with this chapter, I also want to say that IOI, you know, okay, so Sorento reveals that Wade's trailer has bombs attached to it, and he can blow it up remotely at any time, so he better comply.
Well, real quick,
yeah,
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah,
just because, for order of chapter here. If you don't mind.
No, of course.
Make that point. But
yeah.
Your first one was good. So the third offer is made to Wade, and Wade, roundly just denies it. Wade at first demands that Sorento is fired and that he takes over the Oology division.
Yeah.
In an act of absolute posturing. And I have to bring this up because John's not here. This is the part that gave him chills. It was the part that kind of gave me chills about this chapter, or at the very beginning of the chill factor. What does Sorento say when Wade knocks him down? Finally says, you know what? Not interested. Stands up and is about to walk out. And what does Sorento say? Wade, sit down.
Yes, that is a good moment.
Yeah.
Very good moment.
That was the best moment.
Boom.
Yeah. That's a strong point in the book.
He drops that. I mean, so much. Like, if you're a reader or if you're listening, it doesn't matter. It transcends medium. That moment where he says his fucking name, you're just like, huh, jig is up.
Yeah, he's fucked.
It's
the leverage swaps.
It's the first moment, and Chris and I talked about this the other day. This is the beginning of the end for Wade as far as the disassociation of the Oasis from reality.
Yeah.
It's the very beginning of the end. Wade has lived his entire life in this sort of blissful existence of the Oasis, and he's always been clawing out of reality to get back to the Oasis. This is the first time in his history that the two have sort of transcended each other, and it's fucking terrifying as a reader to see that.
Yeah.
It's got to be terrifying for him, but as a reader to say that, okay, well, all your boundaries are fucking gone. Like, that safety net you had is gone. No longer are you safe here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
what a week he's had.
It's been a fucking week. It's been a 24 hours for sake. I mean, this is all happening in a very short span of time.
Let's 72 hours, let's say.
Well, we're 14 chapters in right now, and yesterday, in terms of the book, yesterday morning is when he left his aunt's stack.
Right.
So we're just about at 24 hours. Well, no, because he slept for 12 hours.
Doesn't he go to school though at some point and then check?
You're right.
It's a couple of days.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's about I guess 48, 72 hours, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, regardless, it's a very short span of time between when he finds the key or has the realization that he's about to find the key, and he's standing here, and this guy knows his fucking name, knows who he is. Not Parzival. He knows who Wade is. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because he could have only gotten it from one place. And here's why I think this is genius. I don't know. Did they go into the fact in this chapter? I might have forgotten this part. It might have been in the next chapter, guys. This is an edit point. But they bring up in the fact. in this chapter that it was his principal that gave him up, right?
Yes. Well, no. It might be That's a good question. I think it is brought up in this chapter.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is brought up
Yeah.
because he specifically says it's a shame. It's a shame what principals get paid at these schools. So we just went in and bribed him, and he found your information for us.
Right. So
because he's like, how the fuck did you know that? And he's like, well, let me tell you a story.
Right. I want to bring something up here. Okay, so Sorrento's number is 655321, which is Alex's number from Clockwork Orange.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The moment this reminds me of is the moment that Alex gets out of prison and he sees his droogs for the first time. And his droogs are cops.
Yeah.
And they take him into the woods and they beat him. And the filter that they have on that camera is just like this, like golden hour. It's like dusk. It's just before dusk. And he's getting fucking ribbed with that billy club, right? And it's making that springing sound every time it hits him. And they're dunking his head in the water. And it's the most surreal image that you can possibly imagine. It's like his reality is completely departed from what he recalls from before he went into prison.
Mm.
He comes out and it's a completely different reality for him. This is that transition point for Wade. And I find it really cool that they use Sorrento's number as Alex. I don't know why they use him as Alex, because for Wade is sort of the Alex character here. He's the one that's sort of having his reality broken. And I don't know what role Sorrento plays in that, but still,
yeah.
It's this reality breaking moment for Wade,
right.
leading into this moment where all of a sudden everything around him needs to be questioned.
Yeah, that sucks for Wade.
It does. It's a fucking living nightmare.
I know. His life is bad enough as it is already. And,
When I reached this point, I was thinking, why 3? Like, why didn't we just cut the fucking threat? And I suppose if you can get somebody with money, you can still use that leveraged over them if they get to a point down the road where they're not doing what you want them to do.
right.
Kind of like a leash on a dog. But this idea that at any time they really could just off him.
You know what? My thought that I was gonna my point I was gonna make earlier was that why is IOI even messing around if they know who he is and where he is? Why don't they just kidnap him?
That's probably still illegal.
Yeah, but killing him's illegal too. And threatening to kill him is illegal. They totally could have. He's a total like vagabond, homeless kid more or less. They could have just thrown him in a truck, and or whatever, and driven him to an IOI headquarters and forced him to work for them.
Well, I think this is saying that like it would be better to pay him, like buy him off than kidnap him.
Yeah.
Let alone kill him.
But even
you do
really
want buy-in.
Like let's find the in between here.
Yeah.
Before you kill him, let's put an option 4 before we go to option 5, which is kill him. Let's just swipe him up
because he's valuable.
Right.
It's like killing him. It's like if you could just if you know where he is, you could he's totally defenseless. Just kidnap him and force him to work for you at that point. Killing him is like a waste because then you could maybe spend the next 20 years trying to figure out how to win the contest, or someone else, H or Artemis, does it before you.
But you have other resources.
Well, my thinking was if there's any kind of relationship that they could potentially know about, threatening someone's life, are you going to get cooperation? Is that going to give you buy-in? Now, in this situation, he's really just saying, look, we'll give you $5 million, but you got to do something right now, and you got to take us right to the door, and you cannot log off until it's done. We are paying you for what we are going to get, and if you do not give that to us, you will die.
But he makes the point. That they were probably going to kill him anyway.
Yeah, and I think they would have.
Well, Wade makes that point. Sorrento says we don't want to kill, and if we can do this deal, then great. But he comes to that logical place.
Because
he comes to that logical place.
Let him go because he's already there.
Yeah, they'd be compromised because they'd want him back again for the next thing when they couldn't figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, so it makes sense, I guess, in the beginning for them to try to get buy-in from him to join their team. If you can't, beat him, join him, kind of thing, or if you don't want to join him, then
here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is the only guarantee. Wade may be right about to go into the second gate. He may not.
Right.
The only thing that they do know is that he's passed the first gate and that they have not. Right?
Yeah.
So
$5 million is a drop in the bucket.
They're asking for a walkthrough up to that first gate. That's the only thing that they want. Now, if that's the only thing that they want, that puts them dead even with Parzival. What's the reason for keeping him alive? There's none.
But
if all they want is to get even with him, I don't mean even because he's crossed them. I mean even on the playing field. Right. What's the point in keeping him alive? Because they're like, well, we can figure out the second clue. We'll just take you out of the game.
Well, what's the point of threatening his life? Why give that up? I mean, imagine if I come to you and I say, look, here's the third deal. We're going to give you $5 million if you walk us through. And right up to the point, you got to decide that now. And then you say, go fuck a duck. And by the way, I want to come back to that because I've got comments about that. But
we're almost done here. We need to be done very soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, but to actually give up I've got a bomb on your trailer and you will do this now. My thinking is kind of like, if somebody just offered me $5 million to walk them up to the place of equal, which they'll probably get to anyhow. Okay. But then to threaten death, that's the place where you're like, well, they're just going to kill me either way. But if death isn't even on the table, then the option seems at least more reasonable. Does that make sense? Like, I would be more convinced to take the $5 million if he didn't threaten to kill me than if he did.
It's almost scarier.
Well, to threaten to kill me, well, that's a great piece to wield. I mean, if I just logged off, he doesn't have to threaten to kill me to just simply kill me. He could just say, take the $5 million, dude. It's the easiest way to go, but not threaten to kill me. And I could say, well, maybe or maybe not. And if I logged off and didn't give you what you want, boom, he's dead. He's off the scoreboard now. But why play that? Why play the death card?
But
because
if he
would have had more leverage.
If he dies in the Oasis, he has to go back to scratch, right?
No, I'm not talking about dying on the basis. I mean dying for real.
No, I know that. But if he dies in the Oasis, does he have to go back to scratch? He doesn't have the key anymore.
Yeah, right. At least that's what's.
So why the fuck just not kill him in the Oasis?
Well, they try to.
I know they try to. I mean, they've been trying to kill every Gunter from the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I don't know, but they can't kill him.
Level 10, they can kill him.
Yeah, but I mean, it might be a situation where that would be difficult to do, or
I'm
maybe
just saying, if they had no reason to utilize him, they could have killed him by now.
In the Oasis,
knew where he was, yeah.
Yeah, but everywhere he's been has been on a no kill zone, no PvP zone. So they couldn't have killed him.
Yeah, but they drew him out to that spot. They could have drawn him out anywhere.
Maybe. I don't know.
Would have been
like
they could have. It's not like he doesn't know that's not a PvP zone. They don't say that. They don't say like, "Hey, it's no PvP here, so you're good."
Well, he knows what planets are no PvP. Like at least
he's not on a planet. He's on a fucking chat link.
Yeah, but you can't be killed on a chat link. That's the point. It's totally safe. That's the only reason why he went.
I guess that's
because there's actually a part in the chapter that says, yeah, you would have loved it if I'd come because then all your goons would have come and killed my avatar.
Yeah, I still wouldn't trust it though.
I would still be fucking nervous to come in any form. Like, I don't care if it's like an apparition. Yeah. I'd be like, they break out like the Ghostbuster equipment and suck me into a box. But I get you. But I mean, if there's a comfort in the technology that's just not even possible.
Willie, do you have anything to
add? No, not at all. Those are all my notes for chapter 14, believe it or not.
Okay. So at the very end of this, there's a little bit of cock sizing here between Sorento and Wade.
Who has the bigger cock?
Wade.
I have no idea.
I've seen it. It's huge. No, but by the end of this, it's kind of a showdown. Sorrento's calling Wade's bluff. And as the chapter ends, Wade takes his visor off, and if you've seen the trailer, this moment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you're right. Moment is in it.
Wow.
I hope that's the moment.
It could be anything though, but I do vote for
Sorrento
this moment.
is staring directly at him, and can almost imagine him saying, "Stupid move, kid."
Yes.
Takes the visor off, and there's that moment of Wade just breathing heavily and just like, is this real? Is this not? And then, boom. It's the first moment in the book that the Oasis shatters reality. it fucking comes crashing down on Wade.
It's no longer just a game.
It's not a game anymore.
And it's well defined. Like when you're talking about $245 billion, this isn't a game. People would kill for this and will.
Think about his past, right? I mean, he's lived his entire life in the Oasis. For all intents and purposes, this is the first thing. And he comes from a drug-addled, just wrecked home. Like, the worst. And he lets all that pass. It just waters off his back.
In a really shitty community.
Exactly. Like he talks about pedophiles. He talks about
people
Uncle
beating
Rick.
him up. Yeah.
Rick's a fucking dickhead. And, Aunt Alice, she's obviously, just strung out and
Or the cat lady.
Both of his
Cat
parents are dead. Yeah, she's
dead.
She's great. Miss G. She's great. But, all of those factors, right? He divorces himself from reality. Earlier in the book, we talk about, like, how can he stay so optimistic? It's because he has the Oasis. This is the first time in his entire life that the Oasis has betrayed him in a certain way. It has pulled him out of the reality or the peace that he's known back into reality. And he has to fucking face it for the first time. This is a benchmark in the book.
Well, speaking of killing people, let me ask you a question, Willie.
Yeah.
Given me threatening you with the same kind of third deal,
Yes.
would you be more willing to do the third deal if I threatened your life or if I threatened the life of someone you cared about?
Wade doesn't have anyone he cares about. Are you asking
does.
me, Willie Simpson, or me, Wade Watts?
Well, here's what we know. We know that H is a friend of his.
Yeah.
We don't know how much Sorrento knows.
Well, he kind of admits that.
To this point.
He says H
He
doesn't know
admits
much.
that he can't find him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? He could have played that.
But he probably would have
and-
said to him, like, oh, we've got your friend H just like you right now with snipers trained on him.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, could very well be like that. Although it was interesting that you had like this scenery of people in a place that he was familiar with, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well,
To kind of bridge that.
if you're asking me, I would never have taken the meeting with IOI. That was my problem with the chapter.
Way back at the beginning of the chapter.
Yeah.
Fine. But if you were the idiot that did,
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my thing. Okay, so I'm the idiot that would, because
so why?
I wouldn't mind fucking with him. But here's the thing. Okay, there's something in this chapter that goes untouched up to this point that lends credence to every threat that he's making, is that he doesn't overthreaten. He lets him know this is exactly where Artemis is. This is exactly what we know about H. We can't find him right now, but we will find him. And he's telling him exactly the stake that they have in it.
Yes.
I mean, he's not lying. He's telling him, we can't find him right now, but we will. And by the way, you're going to die.
Mm.
He has not bullshitted him one fucking time. IOI would have fulfilled any one of those things. The only thing that they lied about, probably, was that they probably would have killed him. No matter what choice he made, they probably
would
would
have
have
killed him. Yeah.
And that was his fault for showing up. But they already had the bomb rigged. If he
didn't show up, they could have just killed him anyhow.
they would have killed him anyhow.
So
Eventually.
it's good that he did.
Right. So
Willie, you would be dead by now if you were him.
Well, no, I'd be in my hideout. I'd be all right.
here's the thing. I don't know if it's been retconned in. I do, like, it seems a little bit retconned when you bring it up like that. I mean, like, why would you take that? I don't think it's retconned, because I think Ernest Cline had it in his mind that Wade was going to go to that fucking meeting, because that's just who Wade is. You know what I mean? So there's no reason to retcon that in. But at the same time, IOI is giving clear fucking they're laying it all out for him. They really put their cards on the table. Here's what we know. We don't have shit. I mean, first of all, we know nothing. Dido and Shoto have figured it out. Artemis has, she figured it out before him. H figured it out. We have 4 other people on the fucking scoreboard right now. 4 other people. And a team of 5,000 still. And knowing who Wade is, knowing where he goes to school, they still need a fucking walkthrough. Somehow.
Crazy.
Somehow still need a walkthrough. Okay?
But, okay. I can't get into spoilers, so never mind.
But they still need a walkthrough.
Yes.
And like, there it is. So they lay their cards out on the table. They say, we have no way forward right now.
So you're saying their honesty to this point lends them believability.
Well, that, and when they're threatening him, they say, "We don't know where your friend is. We'll find him.
Right.
This is your other friend, or we think she's your friend. We know where she is." And
see,
they're wielding
if
their
they had
honesty
said, "We
with
know where you
arrogance.
are," I would. If they had said, "Look, we know where you are, and here's proof of it, and here's your trailer, and by the way, we know where the other two are too, but we really need you. You've done a great job. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to start killing these other Gunters. Maybe it clears the path for you. Maybe you like these people, maybe you don't. But that's okay, because their deaths are going to be on your head. And we'll start killing until you take the third option. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think on that before I hit the first button, and we kill off Artie. And then another 30 seconds later, we're going to kill off Age. And then who knows what we might do to you 30 seconds after that. So just
He's a solo Gunter. What if he says, "Okay, go for it"? Bluff called.
Well, that is true.
Strapped to his place. They did not have a bomb strapped to theirs.
That might be true, but you know what? He would only realize that after they blew up his place.
But they knew
which would have been.
They knew he was going to say no, anyways.
Oh, well, they don't know that. That's why they brought him in.
All right, Willie, what were you going to say?
Nothing. This is scratched an itch I've had for the 6 years this book has been out to talk about it this in depth with anyone.
If I was as heart pounding about Artie as I think that Wade is portrayed, I would have had deep second thoughts. Like, I might go, fuck it, I think I'm going to call your bluff. This is my life I'm playing with. I'll roll those dice for me. But if Artie was, in that target, I think I'd probably roll over.
I wouldn't have.
Like, fuck her.
I would have called the bluff.
I just think Wade's really lucky how everything played out. That's
well,
he's real lucky that IOI didn't have the drop on his friends. He's real lucky that he wasn't in his hideout at the time that they threatened to blow up and do blow up his trailer. He's
lucky that they told him that they would.
And he's lucky to have learned what he learned about IOI from speaking with them, despite the stupidity of going to talk to them in the first place.
Right.
So a lot of fortune is falling towards Wade's way, despite the tragedy that is ensuing right now.
If they had zeroed in on his hideout instead of the trailer, completely different story.
Well, there is no story. Then the story picks up where Artemis is.
Well,
I met this guy once. Yeah.
Or he goes with IOI.
Yeah.
Because his life's actually in danger. They actually admit to him before they pull the trigger. I feel like that's why he's so cavalier. Is because he says, "Well, if you blow the fucking bomb, I'm not up there anyways." They show him where the bomb is attached. They're like, "Oh, it'd be a shame if you and your family died." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I don't really think it'd be a shame if they died." But
he thought they thought they were bluffing or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was playing with cards that he could afford to lose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if
it was 2 or 3 stacks worth of people.
Right. It's right.
Real human garbage in those stacks.
Hey man, video game violence.
That kind of makes him as bad as IOI.
Well, he plays with the lives of these innocent people.
He does.
Some of them might be assholes, but some of them were good. And it's not just one stack; it was multiple stacks that blew up.
Miss G is a sweetheart.
Yeah, and the cats.
And the cats, all of them, 1,100 of them.
All of them were not assholes. They did not push cups off of tables. Yeah. It was all good.
All I have to say is that I'm with Sorento. I hope he wins so he can make the Oasis a better place. It seems that seems they need filter controls and whatever other IOI things they want to implement. I can tell that the Oasis is it's too crazy. It needs that nice corporate sheen.
Well,
could you imagine if Comcast had hey, we need you to help us with the internet stuff. Otherwise, we're not just going to cut your cable and HBO. We're going to come kill you.
What if I break your legs? What if that happens? All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, whether it's the real world or whether it's the Oasis, Wade's world has been absolutely fucking shattered. And so we go into chapter 15. But before we get there, I really want to thank our special guest tonight, Willie Simpson. Willie, it was fucking awesome being on the X-Men TAS podcast, and it was really awesome having you. Before we go, though,
Yeah.
Let's talk about your podcast a little bit. So the X-Men TAS Podcast, TAS, that it's basically a podcast that's a lot like our own. It goes episode by episode through the animated series, the X-Men animated series from the 90s. Willie, what got you into that? What got you into that podcast?
Well, it was just a podcast I always wanted to hear, and it didn't exist. And I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I said, it's like the it's like the same reason I became a musician. You get tired of being a fan, and you actually want to make something. So, I saw that no one had a podcast about the X-Men animated series, so I took it upon myself, and with the help of my girlfriend Sonia, we just dove right in, and it's really been a blast since we started. We've steadily increased our listenership. There's a lot of people who love the show, and it's been a lot of fun. And I can't thank you guys enough for, first of all, having me on your podcast, and Ryan for coming on the X-Men TAS podcast. And open invitation to either of you guys. If you ever want to come back, if you ever need something to promote, just let me know. The door is wide open to come back and to talk about X-Men wherever you want.
Dude, it was a blast sitting down and talking with you and Sonia. I mean, it was nice to not have to write out the show and everything and just be a guest for once.
Yeah.
It was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was I had a great time.
That's so nice.
The episode we did was called Mojo Vision.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The 11th episode of the second season, I believe it was.
Yes.
And you know what? I can tell that Ryan was on there because I'm looking at this, like, it's episode 24, Ready Player One discussion, August 20th release, and all of the other ones are like 39 minutes, 40 minutes. The one with Ryan, 69 minutes.
Yeah.
That's right.
We like
Took
that,
just
though.
a little bit longer.
I tend to ramble a little bit,
No,
and
but
I did on that podcast.
There's only so much to say about a 22-minute show that's like nearly 30 years old or whatever it is. So
There's only so much to say about 5 pages in a chapter, and it comes out to about 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, but seriously, thank you guys so much. And the X-Men TAS podcast. If you like the cartoon, if you just like, the X-Men in general, or Marvel or comic books, give it a listen, give it a subscribe. I think people will really enjoy it. It's we try to it's you're right. It is similar to your podcast. We try to keep it light and fun and go deep where we can, and poke fun at the things we love without being too hard or crazy about it. And so yeah, I do feel a kinship with your podcast. Can I promote one more thing, if you don't mind?
Please do.
Okay. Like I mentioned, I'm also a musician, and I've never promoted this before, not even on my podcast, but I thought it was relevant for yours. So I released an album like 4 years ago. It's called Funeral Business. And I'm not asking anyone to buy it or anything. In fact, all the songs are free on YouTube if you want to search them out. But the title track of my album, Funeral Business, it's very much inspired by the Oingo Boingo song Dead Man's Party, which is cool. Featured in I guess like the first or 0 chapter of Ready Player One. So that that's the only reason why I'm mentioning it, is because that song always held a special place for me. And I kind of like consciously or unconsciously created it. It doesn't sound like it or anything, but it's of a similar theme in a weird way. I mean, if you listen to it, you'll get it. And the music video of it on YouTube is just like spliced to the Ghostbusters movie. So
well, fuck it. That song's gonna play us out on this podcast.
Oh my God.
Can you send us
awesome?
Can you send us an MP3?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. We'll play that at the very end of the podcast.
Oh,
And just to make sure we got the name of the podcast, it's X-Men TAS, which is the animated show, right?
Well, the animated series.
Animated series.
We call it the X-Men TAS Podcast because it rhymes. But right, if you're searching for it, X-Men TAS Podcast.
But we'll share a link to their podcast in our show notes. Closing us out tonight is going to be. Is it Willie Simpson? Is that the name of the band?
Willie Simpson featuring Andrew Lee, my old buddy. He plays guitar. He's a genius. So Funeral Business is the song.
All right.
And the album.
So coming up is Willie Simpson and Andrew Lee doing a Funeral Business. Until next time, I am Ryan.
I am Chris.
I'm Willie.
And that is get to the good part. So long, folks.
You got a degree, and now you need a career. You studied philosophy, so what's it gonna be? Let's get in the funeral business. There's money in your body's bones. Or your brother or your mother, or any kind of sucker, but you know they all need a home. See the skeleton playing piano with the rhythm and a grace untold. His hollowed out eyes are no disguise. He's laughing right in your soul, your soul, your soul, your soul. I think I finally picked a career. I haven't had any luck, but it's a whole new year. Read the lines of my palm and just look in my heart. Where your life ends is where my life starts. Yeah. Let's get in the conjuring business, just waiting on a tax-free loan. I got an old curse from a crooked nurse who I married by the sacred stones. A skeleton sang at the wedding with a voice broken like a ghost. He put a vestment on, and when the song was gone, you could tell he was the perfect host. Oh, the perfect host. The perfect host. I dig my shovel in the dark weather to another fresh grave on the giving birth. I guess he just a man who spends his days in a morgue, his nights in a crypt with the Gunter and gold. Yeah. Let's get in the funeral business. There's money in your body's bones. Or your brother or your mother, or any kind of sucker, don't you know they all need a home? See the skeleton playing piano with the rhythm and a grace untold. His hollowed out eyes are no disguise. He's laughing right in your soul, your soul.